name is Savannah Malabi. I'm currently an MCS major at UC Riverside, and tonight I've been lucky enough to sit with Brian Eltan and ask him about the film industry and his experience with it. And hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you for welcoming us into your home. We are really curious as to how you got started on your career in the film industry, and wondering at what point did you find just like the spark with film, when you fell in love with it, and what has kept you motivated and driven throughout the years? So please tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. Those are 4 questions all rolled into one, but I can answer with one very simple answer. And I think one word to describe it would be passion. When I first grew up as a kid, all the way into middle school, how I got into film was basically that my English literature professor basically gave us an assignment that we had to make a Shakespeare play and adapt it for film and make it modernized and do all sorts of different things to it. So I chose Titus Andronicus, which happened to be Shakespeare's most violent play.
Right.
It was, we basically had a lot of crazy shootouts, we had a lot of mafia guys, and we basically made it almost like Godfather meets Shakespeare, if that makes sense. So it was a very cool experience. And at the time I was a writer, among many other things in high school, and so basically I ended up thinking, why not basically go into film instead of writing, when you have these abstract sort of thoughts, you can always, have it in your head,
right.
But why not do film where you can actually translate it into reality? So I thought that was pretty cool. And then when I first started college at UC Riverside, what I did is I started this organization called the Film and Photography Society, or FPS, and what we did was, at the time, there was no such thing as MCS, it was just like film and visual culture, which was very like literature and like very theory-based. So we wanted to have actual hands-on experience, so I started the club, and we brought together all sorts of interesting filmmakers that were at UCR, and they basically we started making films together. That's how I got involved with a lot of campus organization. And then, we basically just shot a lot of films, and so I would say how I got started was basically just having a lot of passion to do something, and that passion drove me to create something that became then a vehicle for my creative aspirations.
I see. That's wonderful. And so, obviously there is a lot of leadership that you possess, and how are you using that now in your current position in film? What is your current position that you hold?
Long story short, I'll give you a bit more of a story, I guess. After I finished college, I actually ended up working at DreamWorks my last year of college, and after that I was a videographer at Paramount for a while, and then after that I worked at this company called Digital Domain based out of Santa Monica. Digital Domain is kind of a visual effects production company that was started by James Cameron back in 1993. And what I ended up working at was I was a visual effects production coordinator, and my job was to manage a bunch of artists on films. Like I started out on Tron Legacy in 2010, that was my first film, and then ended up working on X-Men First Class, and then Girl the Dragon Tattoo, and most recently Jack the Giant Slayer. Yeah, thank you. So after I finished all these films, I ended up Actually, I'm not at Digital Domain anymore. I decided I wanted to pursue my main dream, which was to be a director, specifically of action films. I want to be the next Michael Bay, just Asian and I dare say slightly better looking. So,
of course. I must agree with you there. Thank you. And what has been the most challenging, maybe obstacle that you have faced along this road to where you are now?
I would say the most challenging thing, one of the most challenging things about the film industry in general is really that there's no given path to a certain direction. Like, let's say you want to be a director, there's no such thing as, I want to go to directing school and then I end up as a director. It's not like you want to be a lawyer, you go to law school.
Right.
You can go to film school, but that doesn't guarantee you getting something you want to do in the industry. A lot about film is all about who you know, as opposed to what you know. It's all about connections. And so to me, when I first started out, I had no connections whatsoever. Like, for my first real job on Tron, I basically just did a cold call. At the time I was a director, and what I wanted to do was basically just work in visual effects, because visual effects is the next frontier of how films are being made. So I basically saw Digital Domain's real, and they're one of the best visual effects production companies in the world. And I basically just submitted my resume, and I got a call the next day from HR, and I submitted to this generic HR email address, and this lady said, "Hey, Brian BLT, your resume, we got it, but it didn't open for some reason. Can you send me another one?" And so I sent them another PDF, which worked, and then I got an interview, and the next thing you know, I was working on Tron. So when people ask me what do you do to get into the industry, or how did you get into the industry in the first place, I tell them it's because my resume wouldn't open. So that's kind of one of the challenges about the industry. Is just really not having any connections and trying to get your foot through the door.
Definitely a hit and miss kind of trial and error.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there anything specifically that you would recommend for a college kid, just graduating with this degree in film? I know you emphasized how having a passion for it is extremely important. Is there anything specifically that you would recommend for this college student looking to maybe pursue something that you did?
Yeah, I would say I can answer that in two levels. On a practical level, I will say that they have to have the production experience necessary, because a lot of times film is like, you might have a connection to get through the door and be able to work on a certain set, but if you don't have the experience to back you up, you're still going to flounder and you're not going to do as well as someone else that has the experience.
Right.
So for any college kids out there, I would highly recommend that they work on little student projects, little independent films like I did. That way you get all your mistakes out of the way. You basically get to make all the trial and error kind of stuff. That way you do it in college while the stakes aren't as high, as opposed to when you're out of college and working in the industry on a $200 million project. You really don't want to screw up that. You want to get all your mistakes out of the way. So I'd recommend either working on things like Campus Movie Fest, getting to make like these small little short films and independent stuff in college, and then work your way up from there and get the experience you like, which will also help you discover, I guess, what you want to do on set, because there's so many different worlds. It's like almost like running a hospital. There's all these different departments, all these different things. So getting to do that in college will give you the acumen and the experience necessary so that when you graduate, you know exactly what you want to do.
I see.
Yeah, and on a second level, I would say on a less practical and more, I would say, philosophical level, I think passion is definitely a strong sense of what you have to do. I think also you have to have a strong sense of perseverance and not wanting to give up. You can't ever, you can never get a foot in the door immediately. You always have to you have to be a little bit stubborn, you have to be a little bit audacious, and you have to be a little bit reckless. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and not have any sort of shame whatsoever, because some people are going to say no, and you can't take it personally. You're just going to have to suck it up and just go all out and just make sure you have your dream at all costs.
Right. It's really good to hear, because the film industry is so cutthroat, and a lot of people will face so much disappointment that they just stop it completely.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. And what has been the biggest thing that you've learned from your job now and on your way to making it where you are?
I would say the biggest thing I've learned has definitely been to always learn. That's the thing. You never, I may have graduated about five-ish years now from college, but I'm always a student of cinema. There's never a day where I don't learn anything from someone or something. And so you always have to keep an open mind. And I think the key to success is always being at the cutting edge, and doing so, you really have to be on the forefront of technology, of new techniques, always keeping fresh, always being innovative, and always being creative. And to do so, you have to have a very open mind and not be willing to be satisfied with the status quo. So to me, I think the greatest success and the key, really, the best thing I've learned is to always learn. As much as that's a catch-22.
No, it's incredibly insightful. Just having the willingness to have an open mind, I guess.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And what's been the most embarrassing or most memorable experience that you've had thus far?
I can definitely draw two examples of that. Actually, I can draw three examples of that. The first one of which was when I was working on X-Men First Class. I ended up working, if you haven't seen the movie, it's the coin scene at the end of the movie. And Kevin Bacon is in that scene. And we basically have to put tracking markers all over his face to do for the scene, I won't give anyone any spoilers, but we basically put tracking markers to make a digital double of his face. And so my job was basically to take veneer calipers, which are two incredibly sharp ends of objects, and basically find the equidistant points on Kevin Bacon's face between the dots. So it's basically about this couple millimeters this close to Kevin Bacon's face with a very sharp object nearly about as great as his eyes. So, thankfully, I didn't. As you can see, he's not scarred.
Yes.
Not emotionally, at least. So, and he's still doing okay. So that was pretty harrowing. And the second example was when I was working on Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I was basically working with David Fincher and Rooney Mara. And basically what I ended up doing was I was slating for a visual effects shot. And I was working with this guy, Marco. And Marco was telling me to basically slate it. And what I did not realize on the slate was basically that I had not written down anything on it whatsoever when I was supposed to have all this information. So David Fincher goes, and then I look and I'm like, oh, sorry. So it was a pretty embarrassing moment. But I did not realize later on that David Fincher doesn't like slating at all. So I think he was copying more of the fact that I was not supposed to slate, as opposed to me being an idiot and not having anything on there whatsoever.
I see.
So yeah, it was a very fun experience.
Those are definitely memorable. But it's really good to hear this coming from someone on your level of experience, because it just adds to this level of humanness, I guess.
Absolutely.
So it is you will make mistakes, and it's
Yeah.
okay, because like you said, again, it's all learning.
Yeah.
So it's very important, I think. It's a very important point for students who aspire to in the film industry to hear that.
Yeah, and speaking of student films, I was actually working on my last project together with FBS, and it actually ended up being this car chase, river car chasing at the LA River between two military Humvees and an Audi A4, and we were filming the Audi from like a picture car, and it went over a bump and actually fell off the back. So yeah, it was not a very fun experience to say the least. So.
Yeah, not everything goes according to plan.
Yeah, but to be fair, you know, they were such good filmmakers that they did not yell cut until they had gotten the tape, and then they circled around and picked me up for what was left of me at that point. So, yeah.
So relative to where you see the film industry currently, in what direction do you see it going in the future?
That's a very good question, actually. I thought about this a lot, and I think a lot of Hollywood productions are now going to get outsourced a lot more. They're going to go to places like Vancouver, Canada, China, India, all these different places. The Hollywood film industry, as we know, is going to be a lot more global, I think, and everything from the production process to post-production, it's going to be a lot more globalized landscape in which you're seeing films pop up everywhere. I don't know if 3D is going to be a big deal anymore. We've kind of seen like a resurgence of it, and then it kind of ebb and flow a little bit over the years. I don't know if that's the real direction that we want to go. But I definitely think the biggest thing that happened to film in the past 5 years is going digital. A lot of films used to be shot in film, and now I don't know the exact figure, but I think more and more productions are going and shooting on Red cameras and Arri Alexas instead of shooting on 35mm film. So I think digital is definitely the way to go, and I think it'll be the way of the 21st century.
I see. And in your opinion, how do you think social media and social networking has shaped our society currently?
Is specific to the film industry or just in general?
Specific to the film industry.
Okay. I think social media is a very, very vital aspect of not only the lives of a lot of young people that are spearheading it, but the lives of society in general. A lot of films nowadays actually specifically have a social media presence to attract a certain viewership. I think now social media is going to be at the forefront of it. There's certain web series that are made purely for social media and for web series as opposed to for traditional TV or film media. So I think social media will be a very, very integral aspect of everything in the years, if not months or weeks to come.
And on a more personal level, obviously your job has you incredibly busy. How have you come to manage your relationship with your work and with your family?
Also a very good question. To be honest with you, I haven't. It's a very tough balance, as you can see. Now that I'm not at Digital Domain anymore and I'm working full time as a director, I'm shooting a commercial for Porsche Camera Crane Car Company, and it's a lot about the film industry is very turbulent in the sense that you work for a lot for like a couple months and then you have absolutely nothing and then you end up working again. So it's a very tough balance, to be honest with you, balancing family, love, everything else that goes into the equation. But I think I do an okay job just because I tend to be very organized, and so I manage to balance my time, and every second counts in my life. I can be one of those type of personalities, but how I balance it is basically I look at an order of priorities of what needs to be done for the day and basically attack it as necessary. But I still think I managed to do everything else decently. I feel like I could do a better job balancing, but for what it's worth, I think I cope okay, but the stress level is definitely very high, and I'm hoping to find a way of relaxing better in the future.
I see, I can imagine so. And obviously you're in a very good spot as a director. Do you have an ultimate career goal that you would like to achieve?
To take over the world.
To take over the world, of course.
Yes, of course. Yeah. It's on the cards somewhere. Yeah, I definitely want to be a director. I think that's my career goal in life, and I specifically want to be an action director. I want to make films that are great blockbusters and for great entertainment. Also, hopefully with a great plot, not just great explosions and great gunfight scenes. But yeah, I definitely want to be the next Michael Bay. I want to take over and have a great time in Hollywood and make films that are awesome spectacle to enjoy and a roller coaster ride that people won't forget. And I also, to be an entrepreneur as well, I've launched a few other initiatives apart from film that specifically relate to the film industry. So I would say the two aspects of me that I want to succeed in is probably filmmaking and being an entrepreneur and successful businessman at the same time.
It's incredibly admirable.
Thank you.
And do you have any suggestions for us as far as how we should better prepare for the job market?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you can do is not give up. I would say first off, and the second thing is always try to get a production off the ground when you're in college. Like I said earlier, I think the biggest thing you can do is work now. There's no such thing as waiting and always being like, oh, I'll do that film after I graduate from college. You know, it's all about now. You know, when you have the network around you, people that are willing to work for free, people that are willing to, you know, work extra hours for you just because they love your idea. So for the aspiring script writer out there, don't hesitate. Just have your script made into reality. For the aspiring actresses or actors out there, don't wait till you're graduating college and moving out to LA. You know, work in your local theater production or your local film production. For the directors and producers out there, you know, if you have even a small little idea, there's no such thing as I can't do it anymore. Because there's so many things, like you can shoot films on iPhones now, you can shoot films on iPads, you can shoot films on GoPros. There's no such thing as having to get an expensive camera anymore, like getting an SLR like this one is really, really affordable as compared to when it was 20 years ago. So I would say the biggest thing I recommend is doing what you want to do now. Don't hold it off. Get yourself out of your ass and basically make a film happen and make something amazing. And even if it's not amazing, you learn from it, you get that experience. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, film school can only teach you certain things. But the school of trial and error on set is just invaluable. And that, I think, at the end of the day, will be something that you keep and hold for the rest of your life.
That's awesome. Very, very good to hear. And it seems that the theme in all of this is staying inspired, being proactive, and taking initiative.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate all this insight. I mean, it's incredible and very helpful for someone trying to find their way in the film industry.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One that I shot in Riverside, it's called Slick. We actually had four police helicopters from the Riverside Police Department actually help us out. This is a prop from my movie Killjoy. It was an Iraq War movie, and we shot it, basically in Santa Clarita, but it had to substitute for Baghdad, so we had to do something that looked fairly authentic.